Penn State loses one of the best defensive backs that they've had on the field in maybe 20 years in Jaquan Brisker. Despite that, they're returning what might be one of the deepest and strongest parts of the team. If it weren't cliche, I'd have my eye black on. We're talking safeties here during the BWI Two-A-Days, getting you ready for Penn State football. BWI Daily Edition, Two-A-Days. We're previewing the defense for Penn State football in the first week of camp. By the way, Media Day for camp is coming up on Saturday, so we'll have all these wrapped up before then. Get you ready, get you preview, get you primed to know what's coming up with Penn State football during Media Day and the rest of camp. I'm Thomas Frank Carr, host of the BWI Daily Edition. With me is Nate Bauer. We are discussing Penn State secondary, specifically the safeties. Nate, good afternoon, or whenever you're watching this show, good day of the time to you. What are you looking for from Penn State safeties this year? Are they going to get as many interceptions as they did last year?
More.
Is that the Manny Diaz effect or just blind optimism?
More. Manny Diaz, also ball hawking safeties, who have some experience now. And so between Jaylen Reed and Zakee Wheatley, Tig Brown, they're going to have some interceptions this season. Now, I will say, Tig ending with 6 last year might not be a duplicate. I'm not sure if he'll hit that number again. He had a couple in the Outback Bowl, so that maybe inflated that number a little bit. But on the whole, as a group, I think there is absolutely the potential there for those guys to finish the year with more.
Now, we're going to introduce you to the safeties proper, and then we're going to fold in that striker position a little bit later, just because of the intrigue and the interest in this safety hybrid position. We talked about it on our linebacker episode a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about it here. And I think it's probably a fair way to do that, seeing as it is a no man's land position. But instead of introducing you to the starters at this position, we're going to introduce you to 4 safeties here, as you see on the screen. You got Ji'Ayir Brown, and you have Jaylen Reed. You have
Keaton Ellis.
Keaton Ellis. Thank you. And
the forgotten
Zakee
man.
Wheatley. Yeah, I knew I was going to do that because I was like Zakee Wheatley and Keaton Ellis, but I was going to do them in proper order. And here we go.
Poor
so talk
Keaton.
about your. Let's just start with that. Let's talk about why is everyone overlooking Keaton Ellis?
That's a great question. Why is everyone overlooking Keaton Ellis? I don't know why. I look. There's probably a little bit of a trade-off between the spectacular and the consistent with him. And so is he spectacular? Probably not. I'm not sure that is really his rep, but in terms of, hey, can be back there, smart, knows his job, does his job. Yeah. I think that he fulfills all of those roles. So I don't know. He's kind of had a weird career.
He's disappeared. I was going to say he disappeared for 2 years. That's why people tend to overlook him, is because he played corner. I think in 2020, he was still at corner. It didn't really work out transition last year. He gets injured. He doesn't get the full acclimatization to the safety position to be a part of it till late in the season. And he's also the backup to a guy who had, as we mentioned earlier, 6 interceptions. Now, this is his season to take his starting role in the secondary. Manny Diaz likes to play a lot of flexible packages. Lots of different looks. So is this as much of a concern, or did we lay it out properly of all 4 guys are going to play? You're going to see all of them in individual roles. So it's less of a concern as who's the starter is, or will there be more of a defined position and then just rotation?
Yeah, I do. I think they're all going to appear, and I think that they're all going to appear frequently. And I don't, look, you're so much better at this than I am, but I think getting hung up on field and boundary is a mistake with this group. I think that those guys can be that they're cross-trained, right? They're able to kind of fulfill both roles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tig Brown played field last year, and now he's in the boundary
Boundary.
spot.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
But also we'll probably see some time to the field this season. I don't think he's necessarily pigeonholed into just that. And if I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, actually, never mind. Do correct me.
So the only insight I really have as far as hard film evaluation is the blue-white game. And in that situation, I'm fairly certain Tig Brown was 100% time the boundary safety. So he's playing over top of the box. He's matching up with tight ends. He's playing a little closer to the line of scrimmage in that playmaking role where he's more in run defense, some opportunities, what Jaquan Brisker did last season. But there was, at least from my observation, there was still a defined role for each player. Given that we talk about Keaton Ellis, he's a great run defender. I think eventually, if he stays another year, he might transition over into that boundary safety himself. His calling card as a corner and as a safety has been a run defender. Yep. And then, of course, Zakee Wheatley, I talked to him this spring. He said, his goal is to play at about 200 pounds at 6'2". What does that sound like? Yep. They're all cross-trained with the abilities, but when it comes to what you're doing on the field, the structure of the defense, at least it seems so far, still demands a defined, free, and strong that field and boundary. Yep. With this particular group, is there more room when we talk about that striker position and some of these sub packages to see 3, maybe even 4 safety looks? Or do you think that the talent is enough elsewhere that these guys aren't going to take over the defense? Is there enough talent that you think those 4 guys could, demand to be on the field at the same time in passing situations?
My guess is that it will be a mix of both. Everybody wants to be the guy that has that's room is overflowing. I'm talking about assistant coaches, right? Everybody wants to be the guy who has the room that there's just so many good players that you can't keep them off the field. And so Terry Smith, no doubt about it, would love to have Daquan Hardy as that third guy, right? As in a nickel package on the field a good amount of time. But if Zakee Wheatley is as good as advertised, Jaylen Reed is as good as advertised, and I think that they are, right? I mean, they put it on tape in the spring, and certainly in Jaylen Reed's case last year. So if those things are true, then yes, something's got to give, but also there is probably a resolution where you're looking to maximize these guys and their abilities as much as you possibly can. So having, right, it might even be game to game, depending on the opponent.
But that's the beauty, right? That's the beauty of having enough depth and talent to have matchup situational football where you might not have one thing dominate all season long, is you have the ability to play all those pieces.
Yep.
And this is kind of a broader question. I just asked it, but is that the fate of Penn State's defense? Do they have enough that they can develop that sub-package culture of playing a lot of guys in a lot of diverse roles? Do you think that's an actual reality? Or will it be, we trust X, Y, and Z, we've seen it work, we're going to go with those guys in those packages?
I'm going to echo and trust Manny Diaz when he said, we'll see.
I want answers now.
I know, but it is fine to have a reputation. It is fine to have, the things that were established on all of the optimism that emanated from Penn State football about the secondary through the spring. That's all good. And it's great, even, dating back to last year, especially at a position where you just lost a 2nd round draft pick.
Yeah.
Like to be able to go into the next season feeling as though you're better than you were the year before when you had a 2nd rounder. That's great. That's great for the position. That's great for the program. However, feeling good about it and actually putting it into action are totally different things that will need to take place. So it's about establishing at this preseason, right? By doing it in practice. Who can be consistent? Are they all viable options? Are they ready for a game? Are they ready to be the last line of defense? Manny Diaz said it. I will repeat it. It is easier to play guys who aren't ready on the defensive line and at linebacker. He said, when a safety makes a mistake, they call that a touchdown. Right? And that's it. That's the bottom line, is when a safety makes a mistake, they call it a touchdown. Are those guys ready to be the 99 times out of 100, they're solid. They're not going to let the offense get behind them.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're going to find out.
This is an interesting group because we've talked about the majority of the players at the position, and that's about it for the safeties. Like, it's a pretty clearly defined group, but there are additions in the class of 2022, whether it's freshmen or otherwise. So let's meet those players now. You have safety KJ Winston, a 4-star player, 6 foot, 200 pounds. You have Mekhi Flowers, and of course, a guy who is officially listed as DB, not corner, not safety, not anything else. DB Tyrese Mills, 6'1", 202. Caught a look at him at practice on Monday, and wow, was I impressed by him as a physical presence.
Yep.
Two of those players in particular, I've had my eye on when it comes to, are they the next guy playing that striker position? That would be Mills and KJ Winston. Now, they're on the depth chart. They're about 10 pounds off of where Jonathan Sutherland is right now. Do you consider any of those guys a part of that conversation when it comes to playing that striker position in underneath coverage?
Yeah. I mean, I think Mills is for sure, given the fact that he's 2 years in, right? He's had some college experience, even if it's at the JUCO level. So those guys tend to be, and Ji'Ayir Brown is a perfect example. So is Jaquan Brisker, of guys who make that transition. And yeah, they might not be in a feature role. He might not be a starter this year, but getting run, yeah, sure, for sure.
Is that going to help Penn State fans and how they feel about that position? If there's somebody else that can be a part of the conversation at that striker position, because one of the things that we did not talk about, we didn't really talk about Jonathan Sutherland in depth at the outside field backer position. It's an area that a lot of Penn State fans feel uncomfortable with because of Sutherland being in the system for a long time, getting to see him and maybe some of his weaknesses over time. Do you think this is a situation where he can prove himself better than what people expect of him? And if not, is this a situation where somebody can step up and take plays?
Is it not fair to give John Sutherland the run up of 9 months, knowing that this is the position he's going to play, and being able to acclimate to that and then take his shot? Because to me, this is not a charity, right? Like they don't assistant coaches, head coach, what have you, they're not playing guys that they think are going to be their worst option just because they've put time in the program. That's
loyalty,
not how it works.
Seniority, right.
It's not. Seniority and loyalty may be a factor in how decisions are made based on experiences that have been gained, trust established, all of those things, fine. But if John Sutherland cannot play the position and is a liability game in and game out, he will be replaced. They're going to have to make a transition from what they've played previously into this role.
Yeah.
Who can do it? Who can do it the most consistently? Who can do it with the fewest mistakes? Bottom line, we're going to find out.
That is our X factor, not only of the safeties, I think of the defense as a whole. Any part of the defense that you look at, you can say there's a corner that has some right to that 11th defender spot. There's a safety. You might even want there to be a linebacker, and all of them theoretically can play that spot. So it's Sutherland is the first guy up to crack at the bat, see what happens. But there are sub packages, depth, opportunity at that particular position as Penn State enters this new era of, it's not absolutely going to be a linebacker on first down.
Right.
At least a linebacker body type. And that's why I concluded that position with safeties, because that is the pool that they've drawn from in the preseason, during camp, spring practice, and through the summer. And we'll see how that filters in now that we're in training camp proper. So let's talk about the safeties. Stock up or stock down. This seems like a pretty clear indication as far as our conversation, but let's call it officially: stock up or stock down for the Penn State safeties in 2022.
Stock up on the whole and stock middling for the high end. Right. I mean, I don't think Tig Brown is a high second round pick. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Possibly not. I just, from a physical standpoint, does he have the explosive speed? Because Jaquan Brisker's speed was what made him what he was. I'm going to say that there's the opportunity for stock up to even meet that, because I'm very high on some players in this class. I think the younger guy is Jaylen Reed. I think he's got a special way of moving about the football field as long as he can bulk up and play a little more physical. And then I really like what I see from Zakee Wheatley as a complete package. He is smart. He is physical. Well, the physical part I think is going to be the last part we find out about, but he's physical in routes. And I think he can get his hands on the football. So that has the potential to be stock way up for me. But I agree, stock up as the whole, and that is the safety room for Penn State football. Couple seconds here, 30 seconds before we have to get out. Any last thoughts on the Penn State defense?
Yeah, it just they're in a spot where they have to show it. In some respects, they're positioned to withstand losses better than they were last year if there's injuries or absences. And we'll see what it is from there. I don't love the Big Ten offensively. And so it primes itself well to do well defensively. And these guys, I think, are in a position to be able to do that.
That'll be the last word. They're in a good position to do that at a lot of positions this year. We'll find out after training camp. We will be back on Saturday. Make sure you're following BlueWhiteIllustrated.com for all our coverage there for Media Day. And, of course, once we get into the proper full part of training camp, we'll have all the things you want to know from Blue White Illustrated, BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. Subscribe here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We'll talk to you later.